But why is it that, some ladies struggle so much? Why is there so much, sort of unexplained infertility? Why is it that some women have had the endometriosis excision surgery and they're still in horrible pain and they're still not pregnant? Really, what I find is what I call metabolic derangement and chronic stress.
In today's interview, I had the pleasure of interviewing Sophia Pavia, a registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in fertility and progesterone resistance. Sophia's passion is empowering women to embrace their bodies and achieve their highest level of health and fertility. To Sophia, there is no greater thrill than hearing that a woman who's longed to be a mother has brought home her healthy baby. Sophia earned her nutrition degree from Bastyr University, the world's foremost naturopathic medical school. Now she specializes in helping women heal their fertility so they can ovulate robustly, make plenty of healthy hormones, and bring home their healthy baby at long last. Sophia uses real-world experience to bring an expert level of care to her clientele. Over the years, she's helped hundreds of women nourish their bodies and build beautiful families. I hope you enjoyed this interview. All right, so I'm joined today by Sophia Pavia, and I'm really excited to chat with you because some of my most popular videos are on fertility, and you describe yourself as like a progesterone fertility.
Yeah, that's mainly, my specialty. Of course, it's women's health and fertility.
Yeah.
But we all got to find our slant, right? And so probably my favorite, the biggest expertise is in helping you make and use adequate progesterone. Whether it's a luteal phase defect where you're just simply not making enough progesterone, or a condition like endometriosis where you're progesterone resistant and you need to get better at using your own progesterone. That is what I do. It's basically supporting your ovaries for a robust ovulation and then making plenty of progesterone throughout your entire luteal phase into a pregnancy and beyond.
Okay,
to pregnancy and beyond.
I love it. I don't know if you want to add, my first question to you is going to be just an intro who you are. So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that specifically.
Absolutely. So I'll give my little, 40-second elevator pitch. So I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I went to a naturopathic medical school and then did a traditional allopathic residency. So I sort of have the best of both worlds in my education, the naturopathic education and then the allopathic practice. And I am a mother of two, and I had an ectopic pregnancy in January, so I lost my third. And now I'm back on the road of trying to conceive myself, as well as supporting moms all along the way. So I've had my own journey of trying to get pregnant, getting pregnant, having babies, all of that. And now I'm back in the trying to get pregnant world. I also have stage 3 deep infiltrating endometriosis, which I had excised almost a year ago. And I also have a giant uterine fibroid that I'm battling right now. And I'm about to step into like a whole nother round of alternative medicine weirdness in order to try to treat that, because along with the endometriosis excision, I also had a radiofrequency ablation of the fibroid, which was unsuccessful. It was an embolization and it was failed. The fibroid only got bigger. So we're working on my fertility while I support other women who are walking similar roads. I myself had a luteal phase defect, and I sort of looked around and saw, man, nobody is really helping this along. And we are really a generation of women, I would say women between the ages of 30 and 40 right now, are the generation of women robbed of progesterone. They aren't making enough because our lifestyles do not support adequate progesterone production. And meanwhile, we're doing all the things everybody told us to do.
Yeah.
We're working late and waking up early and doing that high intensity interval training. We're eating low carb. We're scheduling meetings in our lunch hour. We are breaking that glass ceiling. We are getting multiple degrees. We are crippled by student loan debt. We are trying to grow our families while taking care of our elderly parents. We are doing all of this at the same time. And because of that, our progesterone levels are in the dumpster because we also all went on birth control pills when we were 12.
Yeah.
And that's our life. And so here we are in our 30s now, though I work with women in their 20s every day, and I also work with women in their 40s, so please don't take this as like, if you're not in that exact age bracket, this isn't for you, because I'm painting with a broad brush here.
Right.
But that's who I'm helping, because these are the ladies that are struggling to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and bring home that healthy baby, a lot of times because they don't make and use progesterone very well.
Yeah. That was an extremely accurate description. I feel like I can relate to so many of those things that you just said. And
Yeah.
I think it's really probably very relatable for a lot of your clients, patients, because you're walking right alongside them with a lot of these concerns that I'm sure that they're also living with. So this is kind of a nice segue into my next question. You've already kind of started answering this question, but in your fertility practice, what types of barriers to fertility are you seeing in your patient population? And I'm not talking about these like, like PCOS is the leading cause of infertility and endometriosis, but those like root cause issues. You did allude to luteal phase defects, progesterone resistance, not making enough progesterone. What are some of the other ones that you see, or if you want to elaborate on some of those in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. And I would for those of you that have PCOS and endometriosis, we're not saying that that's not a root cause, because it is.
Oh, yes.
But we're just like, what's sort of driving some of the issues, because pretty much everyone with PCOS can go on to have a baby. Why is it that some people are having such a hard time? Pretty
Yeah.
much everyone with endometriosis can go on to have a baby. Why is it that some people are having such a hard time? I didn't even find out I had endometriosis till after I'd had my second baby. I mean, the writing had been on the wall since I was 12 years old, hence the birth control pills, but I hadn't actually been diagnosed and treated until not even a year ago. So, underlying issues, really what I find is what I call metabolic derangement and chronic stress. That's really what's driving a lot of these things. The reason why one gal with endometriosis can get pregnant like I did. It wasn't easy, and there were things that had to be solved and healed before I could get there. But why is it that, some ladies struggle so much? Why is there so much, sort of unexplained infertility? Why is it that some women have had the endometriosis excision surgery and they're still in horrible pain and they're still not pregnant? And while I can't say this is the case for absolutely everyone, I find that the root cause of why we're having these symptoms in the first place, or why maybe you had endometriosis in your 20s, you were all right. Maybe even you had a baby back then, but now you're in your 30s and it's way worse, or you just now got diagnosed with PCOS because suddenly you gained 40 pounds like overnight, stopped ovulating, and you don't know what the heck is happening to you. So the two things, metabolic derangement, because for some ladies, metabolic derangement is we are running on low carb and caffeine, and we're a high productivity. We are the best producer in our work. We are doing more with less all the time. We are covering other people's butts because they're way more laid back than we are about things. We are hitting that Orange Theory class at 5:30 in the morning and then getting home and doing our full hair and skincare routine, having your green smoothie breakfast, and then going off to work, where you bust your butt, meeting after meeting, putting out fires all day. Your team couldn't imagine doing it without you. You are such a keystone in this company. Maybe there's time for lunch where you have like half a sandwich or a cup of soup or something. And then you come home and you're like wolfing down chips and salsa while you're cooking dinner, while you're sending emails, while you're wearing your LED red face mask, while you're streaming TikTok on your phone, doing all this stuff at once, and you eat dinner and then go on to have like three more snacks after dinner, can't sleep at night, trying to get to sleep, brain won't shut off, and then you're dragging your ass out of bed again at 5:30 in the morning to hit that Orange Theory class. Some gals, that's what we're talking about. Some gals, it's moving more the other direction. You have no energy. You could not dream of the 5:30 Orange Theory class because you go do the elliptical machine at the gym and you feel like you need to get resuscitated afterwards. You have insulin resistance. You have stubborn belly fat that just will not budge no matter how much you eat less and exercise more. And there are just other issues going up. Your jawline acne has returned. You're growing hair on your nipples. Your hair on your head is starting to fall out. Your cycles are 33 days, 36 days, 38 days, 45 days long. And when you finally do get your period, it is like a bomb going off in your life. And that's sort of the other side of the metabolic derangement where we're looking more at like insulin resistance versus underfueling, like we see with the first lady that I described. And so we sort of have these two ends of the spectrum, which both result in the same sort of metabolic derangement. You're not using your insulin well. You're not using your blood glucose well. You don't have enough muscle mass in one case. You have maybe too much lean mass and not enough body fat in the other case. And in both cases, we have chronic stress. And stress can mean so many things, like emotional stress. I really thought that I would get pregnant by now, and I'm not. My parents who've refused to eat right and exercise all these years are now having like health issues and falling down when they're having like a laundry basket in their hands. And now my dad had a heart attack on the way home from work and he's in the hospital, but he's going to be fine, but he's going to need rehab. And stress like that, or stress of things like dental issues that are unresolved and gum inflammation that's driving a lot of internal stress, unresolved infection that you have endometriosis, ureaplasma, you have chronic yeast infections, chronic UTIs, chronic sinus issues, chronic ear infections, and these things just keep coming up, and this is another stress in your body that you're struggling, your body's struggling to deal with, that's making it to where your body doesn't feel safe to get pregnant. So it's not necessarily emotional stress. It's like the physical stress of inflammation, infection, illness, injury, driving the stress that your body is experiencing, even though you may not feel, anxiety over these things. So in both cases, it kind of boils down to the same issues. Metabolically, things aren't going well, and there's too much stress on an overloaded metabolic system.
Yeah, I love that. That was, quite a comprehensive explanation of all the things that could be contributing to that subfertility or that inability to become pregnant. I don't think that there's probably like a super simple answer to this question. I love that you brought up the infections. I always say too, like you can have physiological stressors, there can be the emotional stressors, there could be the infections, there could be something that your body is feeling is out of balance. And while you may feel normal, the body is not getting that signal. But the question I was going to ask is, and again, this is probably not a straightforward question to answer. So for anybody listening, for those listening, keep in mind that this is not going to probably be like a super comprehensive answer, but could you explain like the connection, maybe pick 1, 2, or 3 of those things and explain the connection, like maybe the signal, the messaging that your body is receiving as to why that's acting as a barrier, right? So for example, like if you're really, really stressed, your body's not necessarily going to want to prioritize procreation, right? Because the signaling that it's getting is that it's just trying to keep you alive. You're in this stress state. It doesn't know what's stressing you out, but it knows that it needs to tap into all these systems to keep you alive. And maybe a consequence of that is not pushing enough resources towards progesterone production, right? Or enough resources to support ovulation. Yeah. I don't know if...
So what is the question?
So I was gonna
There's like a lot of statements that I agree with, but I'm not sure what you asked me. Sorry if I missed it.
I was gonna ask because you had listed out a lot of reasons, right? Those root cause reasons why somebody would be
Yeah.
struggling to conceive. So, I preface by saying this isn't going to be a complete answer, but I want listeners to better understand the connection there, right? Like if you're out there and you're being a boss babe and you're successful in your career, how does that translate then to issues with trying to become pregnant?
Got it.
Like
Okay.
what is the significance of insulin resistance for
I think
example?
I can give you a concise answer that's
Okay.
kind of overarching.
Yeah. Okay.
Pregnancy, birth, and postpartum are a really big deal biologically. We as humans are different than a lot of other animals where our babies are like up and running immediately, or where we can have multiple litters and there's like several babies at once. Like humans are very unique into where it's almost always a singleton pregnancy. Our body size in relation to the length of gestation is very unique for humans. Even the way our babies implant within the uterine wall and begin to grow is very unique. And humans take a really huge biologic risk when getting pregnant. So, your body, in order to preserve the human race for all of humanity, and in order to preserve your life, will tamper down your ability to get pregnant and stay pregnant. Really, your ability to get pregnant, though, but that's the main thing that will stop first. It will turn down your fertility, turn off your ovulation, or really dial back your ability to get pregnant, even though you're still ovulating, if there is perceived risk of life. So, throughout history, humans become less fertile, meaning the women, our ovulation will stop or will become much less robust in times of famine and war. These are the two original birth control forms, famine and war. That amount of stress on a female body makes it to where the baby shop will shut down. And biologically, your body doesn't know the difference between a famine and a diet. It doesn't know the difference between a famine and I'm not hungry because I have a hot ball of stress in my belly at all times. Your body just doesn't know the difference between there's a famine and I'm taking a fistful of acid blocking medication to keep my horrible GERD and reflux at bay. It doesn't know the difference. It will turn down your fertility system when there are not enough nutrients to go around, where there is untreated infection, where there is rampant inflammation. This is a biological protective mechanism to keep you alive. That's what your body's trying to do at all times. If your body perceives that a pregnancy would likely kill you because of these, hardwired intrinsic urges, not urges, what's the word here? Intrinsic inputs. Your body's going to tell you, don't get pregnant right now. Don't get pregnant right now. And it's going to shut down your fertility systems. That is a big issue. And it becomes more and more an issue as you age. Because think about sort of an overuse injury, right? Carpal tunnel in your wrist from using your keyboard the wrong way. If you don't have good positioning, yeah, you could do it for a couple of months and it would be fine. But the more overuse you have with this incorrect positioning, the more the inflammation and pain is going to show up. You're not going to get carpal tunnel from writing one email with the wrong position.
Right.
It takes months or years of this. That is sort of how your fertility system is. When you're in your 20s and everything's like shiny and new, and you just started ovulating less than a decade ago, and everything is still sort of you're running on fumes, but the fumes haven't started to run out yet, you can do more and it won't impact you. For example, I remember in high school eating Taco Bell before a track meet
Yeah.
and running the track meet, and it was fine. If I ate Taco Bell and tried to use my stairs, I'd be like, call 911. Like, there's no way I'm going to be doing anything athletic after eating Taco Bell in my 30s. No way. But my digestion was just whatever back then, and it was all good. This is not the case as you age. And so it's not that these issues developed later in your fertile years. It's that you've been using poor economics and now, or ergonomics, and now you're writing your 5 millionth email and your wrists are breaking down. It's that you can no longer put Taco Bell in the tank and try to run a track meet. Your body just can't continue to be misused any longer, and it's beginning to break down because of it. So that is really what I see is gals are like, dude, I've been doing this forever. Like, I was a double major in college. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Like, why is it that now suddenly the wheels are falling off? And it's really it's actually never been good for you, but you were able to manage all this time, and now your body just can't keep up with your lifestyle anymore.
Yeah, so well said. That's absolutely the answer that I was after. So thanks.
Oh, good.
For getting my question.
I use all these ridiculous analogies. I was talking to one of my private clients yesterday, and I don't even remember what analogy I was using. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to explain this to you with these analogies? I don't know, but this is the only way I know how to communicate to people. So here we are.
They're helpful. Yeah, they're helpful.
Okay,
so
well, good.
Let's say somebody relates to all these, these things that you mentioned, the double major and being a boss babe and being super successful in their career and doing the 5 a.m. Orange Theory classes. What are some of the things that you work on in your practice to help support fertility?
It really depends on the person and sort of where they're at and where we're able to make changes. Sometimes it's as simple as, let's just make sure you're eating enough, and we'll just start there. Let's make sure you're having a robust, savory, protein-rich breakfast. Let's save your caffeinated beverage till after you've eaten. How much sleep are you actually getting? Because the 5:30 a.m. workout may be fine if you're going to bed at 9:15.
Yeah.
That's fine. If that's what you like to do as the sun goes down, girl, so do you. And you're just a morning person and you like this, it's a source of joy. You're with your friends, you feel good. Well, maybe we don't need to change that. But if you are dragging your ass there and then you're spending the rest of the day having anxiety and you're maybe having low blood sugar issues and you're having all these cravings and food aversions, then I would say this maybe isn't working for you anymore. But I like to always start with the low-hanging fruit. That's what I call it. What would be the most joyful thing to change? What would be simple for you to change today? Let's work on that. And if you don't love your Orange Theory class, if you're not looking forward to it every day, let's switch it up. Or if you're not drifting off to sleep till 11:30, the 5:30 a.m. workouts are probably doing more harm than good for you. Yes, exercise is important. And if that is truly the only time you can fit it in, we might have to just adjust your bedtime and things like that. But I would challenge you to find other ways to move throughout the day that are more in alignment with your body's hormonal needs versus hitting CrossFit at 5:30 a.m. every day, or that boot camp class, or going for that 4-mile run.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And in the beginning, you shared with us that one of your areas of expertise is in progesterone resistance and suboptimal progesterone levels. Are the interventions that you then implement with your clients who do have suboptimal progesterone levels very similar, along the same lines?
Very similar, yeah. So the first thing that we look at is metabolism. Are you eating enough? Because if you are not, your body is not going to prioritize your fertility systems.
Yeah.
And this can be so hard for people because they're like, what do you mean, am I eating enough? I'm 5'3" and weigh 170 pounds. So Yeah, I would say I certainly eat enough, if not way too much. And while you may be overeating at times, or perhaps we're overeating things that are driving more fat accumulation versus more metabolic tissue and actually burning through fuel and having like a robust metabolism, it is very possible to be overweight and to still be under fueling. And that sort of wacky blood sugar insulin balance stuff is what's driving some of that stubborn weight that you can't seem to let go of. So I want you to understand that under fueling doesn't always have a body size. Yes, we are talking about Sally Sixpack, who's running 4 miles before the sun's even up, and you can't even pinch an inch around her waist. Yeah, that we are talking about you. But we're also talking about the average gal who just looks like a typical American lady walking on down the street. And meanwhile, she could really be under fueling, especially when it comes to protein, healthy fats, fiber, probably not getting enough fiber, and the important micronutrients like zinc, iodine, iron, magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, not getting enough of these vital micronutrients that your body relies on heavily to make enough progesterone. Progesterone is a yellow looking hormone coming from a bright yellow, almost orange organ in your body called the corpus luteum. That color comes from vitamin A, not beta carotene, vitamin A. And so if you are not eating enough vitamin A, you're going to have a hard time making enough progesterone. So these are all things that I look at with people. These are all important pieces of the puzzle, and it's not going to just work to take a vitamin A supplement and be like, well, I'm good now. That's just not how our bodies work. And I would say working on eating enough is probably like the first step. Then the step next would be like, let's look at the quality of what you're eating and make sure we're getting enough of all those things I just listed: protein, fiber, micronutrients. And then next, I would want to look at rest. How are you resting? Because oftentimes we can make some not so fun adjustments that will also help you rest better, recover better from your workouts, and sleep more. And that's a huge piece of making enough progesterone, is getting adequate rest. 6 hours a night is not cutting it. You need closer to 9 hours a night, or 9 hours within a 24-hour span. So sometimes adding in an afternoon nap, if that's possible for people. There are a lot of different ways that we can do this. And so those are probably like the first steps: nutrition first. Then I would say like exercise, sleep, self-care next. And then this third layer I would say is like getting the right supplements on board. So, maybe we do put in a supplement that contains some good vitamin A. Vitex can be a really, really good one depending on who you are. Not everyone with endometriosis tolerates it. And so we would need to maybe start low and slow and see how you do, and make sure we're starting it at the right time in your cycle, as well as doing other things to help prevent excessive bleeding and pain. What are other? I really love magnesium. Melatonin can be so great for your ovaries. It's a really powerful antioxidant, and especially with endometriosis, I put people on redonkulous levels, like 20 milligrams sometimes, to help with the pain and inflammation.
Yeah.
Fish oil is a really big one. And then lastly, we come for your schedule. What are you doing at work? What are you doing for your family? What are you doing for yourself? We really need to draw some good boundaries here. And we all have times when, dad just had surgery, and so we have to be sort of burning the candle at both ends for a few days or weeks. But if this is becoming like my life is taking care of my parents while doing all of this and working and everything, we have to make some big changes. And that can be really hard for people to simplify and do less,
Yeah.
be like, all right, I'm sorry, this 2005 Lexus that you bought, you have to wave bye-bye to that.
Yeah.
And we're going to get you a solid 2010 Toyota Camry. And you're not going to have a $450 car payment every month. You're going to have a zero car payment. And this is going to make it possible for you to have an easier life.
Yeah.
And we're going to move out of the posh neighborhood with the HOA. And you're going to live in an older neighborhood in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house versus your 5-bedroom house that you bought. Just things like this that can be so painful to do at first because you worked hard for that car and you worked hard for that house. But something's got to give. And you're going to have to make some big changes sometimes in order to live a simpler life and take some of this stress off of yourself.
I totally agree. The foundations are number one. So same, I'll look at blood sugar balance if you're eating enough. And surprisingly, the large majority of women I connect with are not eating enough. I don't know if you share in that experience, but
I do share in that experience. They're like aghast when I show them what they need to be eating.
Yeah.
How am I going to eat all this food?
Yeah.
And really, I'm like, honey, you kind of already are, but just not in the right ways. Like you're having your like lean cuisine lunch and it's so small that you're not really cognizant of how many of those peanut M&Ms from the receptionist desk you're actually eating every day and how many of those sugary coffees you're drinking every day. And then when you come home at the end of the day, let's say you don't do those things, you're just running on caffeine and cortisol all day long. Yeah. You come home and you're a monster. You're eating like Ritz while you're making dinner, and then you finish your dinner, and a little bit later, well, maybe I'll have a couple chips, and a little bit later, maybe now I'll have some crackers. Okay, now I want something sweet, so I'm gonna go for this. And you're actually eating a lot of calories. It's just at the wrong time of the day. Yeah. You're fueling yourself the most in the evening and then telling your body to relax and go to sleep. This makes no sense. And so a lot of it is just shifting. You're already eating quite a bit, just not of nutrient-rich foods and not at all in a mindful way. Because when it's a bowl of peanut M&Ms that's just perpetually refilled, it's really hard to see how many of them you're actually eating.
Yeah, I hear you. And I totally agree. We talked a bit about ways to support healthy progesterone. Maybe just so the listeners understand, like what are some signs and symptoms that you may have low progesterone?
Yeah, great question. So we're going to look first at your cycle. If you're not charting your cycle, girl, you ain't living. No, it's a part of life. It's like saying I don't floss my teeth or I don't clean my ears. You just have to. If you're going to be a healthy, vital woman, you have to. This is just a part of life. And it's not fun to floss your teeth. Like, who wants to do that? Yeah. You just do it to get it done. And that's what tracking your cycle is. You do it to get it done. So the first symptom of low progesterone would be a short luteal phase. This is something that you can observe. This is the time between when you ovulate and when you bleed. And if you have less than 12 days between when you confirm your ovulation and when you start bleeding, this is something that I would consider a potential luteal phase defect. It's not always why you would bleed early. Sometimes there can be polyps, infections, other things. But usually there's a luteal phase defect coming in. Yeah. Second thing would be chronic infections, especially on your skin. Like, do you have pimples on your hairline? Do you have acne on your back? Are you breaking out quite a bit? Are you having extra food sensitivities? Believe it or not, progesterone works a lot in immune system modulation. And when you are having high estrogen all the time, your immune system will be lowered. Estrogen deliberately lowers your immune system because your estrogen peaks at the time that ovulation is happening. And because sperm is a foreign microbe, you don't want your immune system to be attacking sperm. This is when we want your immune system to sort of take a little dip. And that's what estrogen will do. When you have estrogen high all the time without progesterone opposing it, we see a decreased ability to fight infection. This is one of the first symptoms that I had of my luteal phase defect. I had like acne on my back and in my hair. I had an infection called tinea versicolor, which is a fungal infection that sort of gives you that weird, like patchy, they call it howley rot in Hawaii. It's that like moist, damp environment, like skin. It doesn't itch, it doesn't hurt, but it makes your skin discolored. Um, and unbeknownst to me, I also had a uterine infection that was just a chronic low level infection where my only symptoms were short luteal phase, spotting, and bleeding at ovulation. And so if you're experiencing those things, it could be the underlying driver is that you are not making good progesterone in your luteal phase, and your estrogen is just too high too frequently, and your immune system is suffering because of it. Another one would be heavy, painful periods. If you are having consistent, heavy, painful periods, or even a one-off, that would probably mean that like one-off time, you weren't making enough progesterone during that cycle. If it's chronic and like always, there's where I would look for the endometriosis diagnosis. But if you notice that in times of greater stress, you're having more pain, more heavy bleeding, more clotting, it's time to start looking for that progesterone. And those would probably be like the main at home issues.
Mood changes, sleep
Yeah,
issues,
mood changes, totally.
locals especially.
You are right. I would just give the caveat of like so many ladies I work with, they don't allow themselves to have moods. They are like just functioning at all costs at all times. And so like I've had gals where we like run some testing on them and I'm like, "Wow, you're extremely anemic. Are you tired?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just live." Like they just function at all costs. Or there a lot of other things happen, but like basically all these things are going on and they're like, no one cares, got to go to work. And they just keep on functioning no matter what. It's not until they have a heart attack when they're 50 that they finally have like a wake up call. But for those of us who are struggling to get pregnant, the wake up call comes sooner. And it manifests itself as a difficulty getting and staying pregnant.
Wow, oh gosh, that's like hard to hear that some women are pushing themselves so much that they're not even able to determine whether
I
they're
see
actually
it all
feeling
the
fatigued.
time.
It's
They're
crazy.
like so disconnected
Yeah.
from their own bodies.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
really an issue.
We need
I see
to.
it in men like every day, obviously. Like I married an extremely high functioning man that had like a very prominent career in the military. He's recently been retired, and I see this in dudes all the time. Like, how many times have you heard of this? I don't get it because some people are like, "Oh, my husband has a man cold," and like, "Oh, he has a stuffy nose, so he's like laying in bed." Or I'm like, my husband tore a ligament in his ankle so badly that the bone came off, and
Yikes.
he continued running for another 13 miles and
Holy
didn't
cow.
go to the doctor for over a decade after that. And it
Oh,
was
dear.
only because he was falling down all the time. And
Oh
then
my
he goes and
God.
gets an x-ray and they're like, "Whoa, what happened?" And he's like, nearly 20 years ago, I rolled my ankle. But I was he was in a really difficult selection process. So he just laced up his boot and kept on trucking. So, I see this in guys all the time. Like, you hear about like the farmer who had a heart attack and like went back to work the next day, or the guy that's like still showing up to work with pneumonia and stuff like that. I think men like shut off and go, but like there's a subset of women that are doing the same thing because their circumstances require it of them.
Yeah, I hear you. Gosh. But we are built different. We're built different. I mean, I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
okay for guys to just, get injured and carry on. Definitely take care of
No,
yourself, but we are
they
built
can
different.
usually remain fertile in those
Yeah,
situations. We
yeah,
won't. Mm-mm.
yeah. That's a good
Because the
distinction.
risk of having a baby to a man is not as biologically detrimental as to a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear
We
you.
have so much to lose. Like, I can tell you from the experiences of my clients, and unfortunately now of myself,
Mhm.
losing a pregnancy, even very early, it's brutal. Not just emotionally, but physically. I mean, like,
Yeah.
even I was only 6 weeks along when I lost my last baby. And that was like, talk about the period from hell. That was like so much blood loss and just so crazy. It's a big biological risk to get pregnant. Your body's not going to allow that unless it is like damn sure that this is going to go on through to a healthy baby. And, it's not infallible. People lose pregnancies all the time and babies and everything else, but it's an enormous biological risk. And so your body is very calculated about how and when she's going to take that risk.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's really important to highlight that, the biological risk, and then just how relevant all these things that so many women do on a daily basis that may be sending the wrong signals. So I think it was a really, really important message to talk about today and for our listeners to hear, especially if they can relate, so they can start putting some thought into making those changes. I have a bajillion other follow-up questions, but I do think we need to end here. But yes, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think
Of
it was very
course.
insightful.
Of
Did you
course.
have
I
any?
do want to leave with like
Yeah.
a sort of closing message to you ladies
Yeah.
who've been listening to this. And that is everything that I mentioned today is treatable.
Yes.
It's all
Love it.
treatable.
Love it.
So if this is what you're going through and you're having a bit of a wake up call moment right now, don't despair.
Mhm.
Don't be sad. There is treatment for you and it's not extreme. We're not talking about an organ transplant here. The treatments for you are diet and lifestyle first, paring down some of the stress, treating some of these underlying infections, and getting you the right support so that your body can do what it was designed to do, what it wants to do, which is help you get pregnant, stay pregnant, and bring home that healthy baby. And so if you're feeling discouraged, take a breath and be encouraged. I work with hundreds of women all the time, and babies are being born left and right because everything I described today is treatable.
Love it. I think that's a fantastic way to end off today. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you haven't already, give this video a like and share it with a friend and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.